Thank you very much and good morning.
I imagine you've not been able to catch some good sleep, but it's expected. It's election, right? Seeing the result of that election, how INEC called election, the APC's Monday Okpebolo with 291,000, the PDP's candidate with just 240-something thousand votes, Labour Party with 22,000 votes. But you have released a statement. All of the election observers came together, released a statement. So I'd like to know, really, when you see those numbers, what comes to mind? What are the events that culminated in the figures that people are either celebrating or contesting from what you observed over the weekend?
Well, Kayode, as you are aware, YIAGA Africa deployed the process results verification for transparency methodology, which is a gold standard for election observation, where we assess the quality of the electoral process and then verify whether the results announced by INEC is a reflection of the votes cast. Now, we've deployed this methodology for 2 presidential elections, for 16 off-cycle governorship elections. So this election is the 17th governorship election we're deploying this methodology. Now, the protocol for the methodology is such that I wouldn't be able to speak, to this outcome this morning because later this morning we would release our final results on our assessment of the results announced by INEC. But here are a few things. I think the first thing to note when you look at this entire process, it shows that, one, that we still have a long way to go with respect to sanitizing our electoral process, because what is disturbing, there's this sort of regression in the quality of our results management process. And we're beginning to see, old tactics of election manipulation resurfacing in our electoral process. And that is really sad. The second, issue to note is that when you look at this election, from the commencement on election day, down to when voting ended and results were recorded, INEC consistently applied its guidelines. The beavers functioned optimally across the state. And I must also say that, one, voters who were on the queue, at 2:30 had the opportunity to cast their vote. But when it came to the results collation, and that's why at least 6 of those who deployed election observer groups who deployed, observers for this election, yesterday issued a joint statement, quite unprecedented. And the reason is that the collation process, based on our observation and reports from our observers, had not just challenges, but undermined the credibility of the results collation process. And we must, really condemn the action of some of the actors, because we have reports where observers and even INEC officials were tear-gassed, intimidated in the course of the collation. You had a collation process where it was disrupted, and you had situations where results were collated in locations that were not designated by the Electoral Act and guidelines. And all of this, are quite unfortunate developments for our electoral process. But later today, we will release our final statement to establish, some of this fact. But the concerns expressed by the Nigerian civil society situation from YIAGA Africa, the Center for Democracy and Development, Kimpact Development Initiative, Elect How, Nigerian Women Trust Fund, and TAF Africa are based on, our observation of the collation process. An election is a process comprising of different components. And so one component, if not managed transparently, can actually hurt the integrity of the entire process.